Hi, and welcome to Tuesday's Tidbits. So I'm going to do a little bit of a follow-up from yesterday, and I'm going to read 2 Corinthians 13:5. It says, "Examine yourselves to see if your faith is genuine. Test yourselves. Surely you know that Jesus Christ is among you. If not, you have failed the test of genuine faith." Okay, so Paul is telling the people of Corinth that they're seeking proof that Christ was really speaking through him. And he was telling them to examine themselves rather than him. Paul's greatest concern was that that they had right behavior. And he didn't really care about their opinion of him. He wanted to make sure that they were right with the Lord. So I'm wondering, how many times do we look at someone else and examine them instead of ourselves? How many times do I do that? When I have been guilty of that, and let's be honest, we probably all have at one time or another. But when I have found that when I've done that, I was trying to make myself feel better about myself, and looking at someone else is way easier than examining myself. So I think that we also have a tend to want to look better to other people than we are. We want people to think good about us, right? I have found that I can't concern myself with what other people think of me. The only thing that matters is what God thinks of me. That's all that matters. So there was a time I think about 3 years ago, I needed to make a humongous decision in my life. I mean, this was a life-changing decision. And it was critical that I knew where God was leading me. So, like I talked about yesterday, I have people in my life that I go to. They're godly people that I talk to. When I'm making a big decision like this, I need to make sure I'm following God's leading, not my own emotions. So, um, I went to them. I talked to probably 4 or 5 people that I really, really trust. They're godly people. And I got their feedback. I told them the nitty gritty. I told them the good and the bad and everything about the decision that I needed to make, so that I knew that I was going to be making the decision that God was leading me to make. The decision that I made based on what God was leading me to do was not accepted very well by some people, unfortunately. And there was some pretty tough consequences that came with that. Not because I was making a wrong decision, but it's because they didn't agree with me and they thought that I was making a wrong decision. Um, because of what they thought, they made some decisions that negatively impacted my life, which is really tough. Going through that season was not easy. I knew where God was leading me, and I knew what He wanted me to do. And during that season, I had to rely on Him and His strength. And there were times I went back to Him and said, "Lord, am I making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing?" And He continually reassured me. And I went back to some of these people and said, "Look, I just want to make sure I'm on the right path. I don't want to fall away from where God is leading me." And God constantly reassured me and re-guided me, redirected me, showing me that I was making the right decisions. Um, we cannot make decisions based on emotion, because I'm telling you, if I would have made my decision based on emotion, I would have come to the conclusion I was making a bad decision during that time. And I would have changed my mind and gone on a different direction. But things, like I said, things were not fun in my life. They were really hard. Um, but because I continued on the path that God was leading me on, because I continued to follow through with what I knew that God was leading me to do, today I am reaping the benefits of that. Today I could not be happier with my life, because the things that are happening in my life today are as a direct result of that one decision. And there's so many blessings in my life today. Yes, that season was hard. It was really difficult to get through that time. But today I'm reaping the rewards of making that decision, as hard as it was. It is amazing when we are being obedient to what God is calling us to do. Even when it's hard, we will reap a benefit. Maybe not today, maybe not in this life, but in the long term, in the long run, it is always the best thing to do to follow His leading and what He guides us to do. We need to continually examine our hearts and our motives to make sure we're following exactly what God wants for our lives and His will for our lives, even when it's hard. In the long run, we will always be thankful for it. So I'm going to leave you today with that. You have an amazing Tuesday, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.